Hello world. Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida Reba Darcy here today on the Bonsai balcony. I have brought down from its perch my cork bark oak, and we are going to do a little bit of pruning. I'm going to try to weed my way back through here. I'm going to do a little bit of pruning on, and then I'm going to hide behind this tree. We're going to do a little bit of pruning on the hardened off foliage of this tree. Ugh. Give me a little space there, will you? Okay. Yeah, we're living the good life here on the balcony, and starting to get a little crowded. Can you see me? Here I am. Okay. So, what we're looking at is my cork bark oak. We have been bringing this tree back from a little bit of dieback we had last year over some powdery mildew and probably some self-induced problems too. But not to worry. We didn't lose heart. I don't think we lost any main structure or anything that we'd really. I don't think we lost too much. We just lost a lot of really good little fine branches and leaves and stuff. Some of the year before's growth, but come back with a vengeance. This tree does, as they are kind of known to do. So what we see here, it's getting really grown, really big, really quick, and I do this tree a little bit differently than I do its cousin, my California coastal oak. Also, my sidekick, Frida Reba Darcy. Let's see. Here you go. That's for you. That was her per diem. If I remember frame, I don't think she's in frame. But she is enjoying the spoils of bonsai. So what I have here is my cork bark oak. I've been developing this tree for a few years. I got it early in the game. It was just after COVID started. Pretty much when we first started lockdown, it was during that period of time that I decided to heck with it. I'll just decorate my apartment. I was going to do that, a little bit at a time over years, but if I'm going to be stuck looking at the place solid, then it could look better. So it was at that time that I started buying plants for the balcony, and it was about that time that I had a ill-fated idea. It wasn't necessarily a bad idea, but I wouldn't be able to follow through with it. I thought I would grow a few beautiful vines and let them come between the rails of my balcony. I thought it would be pretty to see honeysuckle or wisteria, maybe more than one color of wisteria, maybe white and purple wisteria, and maybe some white and yellow honeysuckle. I thought that would be really pretty. I found out later, after I'd already bought some clones and put them in planters, that that was a no. That was a big no. And but it was also about the time that they came in. I remembered having an idea years before at work. I was at work and I was just kind of daydreaming when I was up high in a crane, looking down at the set, waiting for somebody to need something of me, way up high, sitting by my light, big light. They call them BFLs. But I remember thinking about bonsai that I'd had when I was a kid, and I was probably looking at some wisteria because a lot of times I would be up high amongst the trees, shining my light through the limbs that would cause pretty shadows on the ground, and also light the set, and that would just be called dapple whenever you can see the shadow of the leaves. But it was while I was doing that I remembered my hobby as a kid before I got a little sidetracked by the 70s and 17 years old and fast motorcycles. I did. I got a little distracted, and before then, I was into bonsai. I was into bonsai as a little kid up until my early teens, and then I lost my way. Well, flash forward a million years, okay, and I'm up in the top of a crane, looking down, and I'm looking at this wisteria, and I'm going, remember when you did bonsai? I wonder if wisteria would make good bonsai. And there I was with 6 white and purple wisteria clones. So I ordered a wisteria. I ordered a cheap, no, I actually ordered a nice bonsai pot that was way too big, which is what you do when you don't know what you're doing. And I ended up breaking that pot a little bit later on by being clumsy. That's my nature. And I replaced it with an appropriately smaller, cheaper bonsai pot. You shouldn't have a $6 tree and a $100 pot. That's tacky. Not to say that it hadn't been done, but yeah. Anyway, it hadn't been done by beginners that many times in a way that would be all earth-shattering, I'll say that. So, having learned just a few lessons and gotten started with that wisteria, I rediscovered my love of bonsai, and instead of making my balcony out here something with a daybed on it that was surrounded by lush plants and flowers and a view of the nighttime stars, instead of having all of that, I put a bonsai tree out there and started doing this show, and somebody said, you need to get rid of that couch and make more room for trees. And I went, ha ha ha, and then stopped laughing and moved the couch into the living room and started making way for more trees. And one of the earlier ones was this cork bark oak, and it has been I wouldn't say it's been a challenge. I have learned quite a bit off of this tree. It is not the most challenging, but when I started green as grass, and my green as grass mistakes were started here. Like, for instance, I didn't know about fertilizing, and I didn't know that if I fertilized my tree, would I harm it or hurt it. I know that plants are going to want fertilizer, but the idea is to have small bonsai trees. So what are we doing here to keep them small? Are we feeding them? Are we not feeding them? If I feed it, will it stretch out in some way that I can't fix? And then next thing you know, I'm setting them free out in the woods because they're no longer, I didn't know all that stuff. And I was afraid to just go jumping off and see because, and also I felt like I had a lot to learn. So I thought, we'll just kind of go along and see what, and see what bites us. And see what bites us, and then whatever bites us, we'll act appropriately. If I act appropriately, we'll freak out and we'll go to the internet and we'll figure out from 6 different people what we're supposed to do. We'll try to evaluate best we can, and then, which is not the best method in the world, but I got to look back on it and say that's kind of what it amounted to without ever deciding to really do it that way. That's basically what. The squeaky wheel kind of method to learning bonsai. But it was about that time that I learned about nutrition, that I also learned about insect control, and I also learned about what you can get away with in the way of nutrition, how much you can feed something, and without having to worry about it necessarily losing its shape. And what I also needed to learn was, even though I had very, very few branches on this tree when I got it, and it was going to need some ramification, and it was going to need some care and to do stuff to propagate new growth, I didn't know how to go about that, and I was super, super, super duper reluctant to go cutting anything when I had so little to work with already. I had ugly branches that were a long way away from the tree with a little bit of fluff on the end, but I only had like 3 or 4 of them. And what if I did something to them and they responded by doing nothing, and I just cut off all the foliage. So I actually lived in, and I heard that how drought resistant they were, and I looked at how dry it was when I got it, and I said, we'll keep it like that. We'll water it every other day or something, or we'll just watch it and keep it like that, and we don't have to water it every day that way. And that was all wrong. The tree is drought resistant, but it, like most things, it would rather not have to be. If you give it water, it will take that uptake of water and move things within the tree, and it will backbud more. It will make more of everything it's supposed to be doing if you water it, and if you feed it, and if you prune it. And whereas on my coastal oak, it's getting long, and I can't even see in there. And I've got to put on my mechanics gloves and go in on this thing. I don't know if it's not going to be in frame, but it's got like holly-like leaves that have little spikes on, about 6 per leaf. And if you go in there all willy-nilly with your bare hands, it'll scratch you up pretty good. I mean, it'll scratch you up pretty good, enough to where you'll think, well, I should be wearing gloves. So I need to go in and at least take out all of the yellow leaves in there that were in the inner canopy, because it's overgrown. But the method for doing my coastal oak is to let all of that go, let all of those branches go, let them all get as fat as you're going to get, and this fall we'll go through and clean the tree up. It's an evergreen, so we're not necessarily waiting for all the foliage to go away, but we will see an exchange of foliage. And I'll go in and clean that tree up. Then, in between now and then, I'm watching it get more and more and more overgrown. I can no longer even see in there. But it's also not a bad look. What was a bad look was when I saw that tree almost laid bare a couple of years ago over some kind of black death that just covered us. It covered us and caused us problems. Yeah, I'm going to cut this back while I'm here, just a little. Also, today, this show that I'm doing right now was going to be Bonsai Tonight, but slightly different audience. Not Bonsai Tonight. It was going to be my Saturday Night Live Bonsai. But speaking of Bonsai Tonight, I was going to lead into Bonsai Tonight. Today I got a notice that Bonsai Tonight dropped their blog. That's Jonas, and with his blog Bonsai Tonight, and I would recommend his blog as well. The other day I recommended Bonsai Agency, which is a wealth of information, but a lot of people already know through YouTube or through his lectures. Maybe he's been to your club, or maybe you've seen him at some of the bonsai shows. Jonas Duputch of in his blog Bonsai Tonight. And today, his blog posted, and it was about exactly what I'm doing here. So if you wanted to know more about pruning, the hardened off new growth on your cork bark oak, look up, or I'll drop a link. Look for the link in this video for Bonsai Tonight from Jonas, and you'll see a really, really good source of information on just what we're doing here. A little bit more follow up for you, and we are almost now. The reason I'm doing this, why am I doing this? Because this tree is prolific with its branches this time of year. And because it took me about a year or two to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, once I learned to start pruning back the tips of the branches, that began to change their hormonal allocation. When a tree wants to be dominant on the top and apical dominance, there's a hormonal allocation, and all the tips of the branches will accumulate a certain hormone, and the higher up they are, the more of this that they, I believe the way it works, the more of this they accumulate, and the more of this they accumulate, the more the other branches are told of their secondary role. So when you go back and you cut all of those tips, all bets are off. Every branch could be a new leader. Every tip could be a new apex as far as it knows. And it will flush back out. And with some trees, when they flush back out, we want that to go all summer. Just let it go out of frame. And then at a change of season, fall, we'll go back through and trim all that back. This guy, we're missing our bet if we do that. We're wasting an opportunity. I can get 2, 3, 4. I hate to even say out loud a number, the amount of flushes I'll get out of this guy this summer if whenever these new shoots come out or the ramification from what I cut just a few weeks ago, once it starts bifurcating off, we can just build on it. And instead of letting that stuff get longer and longer and longer, and letting the distance between the inner nodes get, by the time this branch gets out here, the distance here and here is getting longer also. It's becoming less good to me the longer this distance becomes. So we cut this guy back early, we get 2 out of that. When they shoot 2 1-footers out or 7 or 8 inch long little shoots, we cut those back to 1 inch or 2 and let that go ahead and make another round for us. And we can do that. We can do that all summer as long as it wants to play that silly little game. In the meantime, we're still feeding it. We're still heavily watering it. And then about fall, when it slows down and kind of settles into it, it's also a winter. It's also an evergreen. So in fall, when it settles down to its little slower self, we can cut back on that. We can cut back on our pruning and wait again until spring when that picks back up again. Meanwhile, this thing is becoming so lush I can barely see in here, and it's taken the little bit of, it's almost like the little bit of dieback that we had at the end of the summer last year with PM, and probably also, in honesty, my overreaction to PM because of that. By the way, these stuck into the concrete. When you saw me drop these and I reached down and picked them up, they were sticking in the concrete. Kind of unfortunate, but yeah, badass tools. So that's kind of it. That's kind of the deal on our Cork bark oak and what we have going on here. When I get up, I may see something that's out of my line of sight right now and have to, like this guy right here. But cutting back the tips is what keeps us moving forward, and what started our ability to move forward on this tree was our accepting of just because something can stand this more than the tree next to it, that is describing to us how it came to survive. It's drought hardy, which is why it survived wherever it was, as opposed to the thing next to it that didn't survive. That doesn't mean the tree would love to sit around without being watered all day. Once you add water, things begin to happen. All of the things that you want to happen hinge on water when it comes to this tree. I'm not saying you can't overwater them, but I haven't yet by just watering this tree once a day on normal days, and on hot days on hot days, I keep going through here. I'll go back through and run water through it just to kind of keep it cool. Also, excuse me. Speaking of hot days, I gotta say, this is gonna be time sensitive material. But I saw today where next week they are predicting our hottest temperatures of the year. It's going to be critical that I probably stay a little bit more on top of that. Excuse me, it's the pollen. A little bit more on top of that than I've been in years past, because last year our heat spell, when our hottest temperatures of the day came in October, our losses in hindsight were our losses in hindsight were substantial. I would say substantial. Not overly so, but I don't think that's an exaggeration either. Within the day of that really, really high 90 plus October, see, it was also the time of year, I could see trees that I looked at and goes, yeah, that tree looks like it's just been through a lot. And that was at the end of the first day. By the end of the week, we were seeing dead trees as we were for the next month or so after that. And we may have lost, I don't know, 6 to 10 pines over that. A cypress tree, a mame cypress tree over that, and a couple of real tiny little oaks. God, I've got all kind of fuzz and stuff all over it. So this year, I'm going to keep an eye on. What we're going to do is we're going to take our trees, our trays of mames and show hens. And during the daylight hours, we're going to bring those trees into the shade. And as we're going to do anything else that we see that we think is vulnerable, everything except this guy is movable. And if these bald cypresses, as long as they stay watered, they'll be fine. Oddly enough, these are some of the first trees to react to super high temperatures, which shouldn't be, oddly enough, because they're in a bonsai pot. Their roots are not sitting in a cavern of water below the surface somewhere. So they dry out on super, super hot days and can be some of the first things to succumb to heat for that reason, even though where they come from, it gets enormously hot. Usually they have, because they're growing, they have some source of water somewhere, whether you see it or not. Maybe it's in the ground, maybe they just keep some water stashed in those roots that are down below the mud or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to want to keep an eye on next week, the supposed hottest day of the year. If they say it's going to be Tuesday, I need to know whether or not it's really Tuesday, or whether or not, I need to do something, whether or not I need to be somewhere, or whether or not, I've got to be on the ready with more water, more shade, less direct sun. But at the same time, I had all kind of ideas. I thought about bringing a little kiddie pool and setting it down in the living room, those little plastic things that cost about $15, but they're about 5 feet across. You can actually put them under your arm like a folded taco. I thought that would be great if I had a big old dog or something. I would just throw that down in the living room and put a bucket of water in it and go, there you go, Fido, don't overheat. But that would be something you could use to possibly, if you were looking at some kind of ungodly heat temps. But I wouldn't want to leave my pot submerged for even hours. So that would be something that you maybe do, you could do that in the bathtub by raising the water level in the bathtub, and then dunking the plants once or twice a day to try to keep their temps down, to try to change what's going on below the surface temps. Try to maybe even exchange the hot water in that pot for some cool water, and then go back out and start over. I've seen the kind of losses that I don't find acceptable last October. I don't know if I will see the same kind of losses if that happens in spring as it was. Your tree's hardiness to those weather conditions goes up and down. It becomes more winter hardy as you get closer to winter, and it becomes less heat resistant as you get closer to winter. So that might have played something to do with it, but I don't want to find out. There's some things I don't need to know. I just need to act accordingly. And knowing that we're going to have some temperatures like that has got me looking ahead and thinking about my aftercare. I've seen the damage that can do, and I've also seen that that's kind of the back story or the back answer to what happens when you decide to take a super healthy tree and repot it and style it and wire it all in the same year, and you start rolling around a few months later, and you look back at it and you go, that thing is so green, so vital looking, and you get a 90-degree day and it dies because that was like strike 4. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Not the end on that downer, but yeah, we got some heat coming, and Pat will be acting accordingly. Our next show will be tonight when we do Saturday night live bonsai, and this was going to be what I was going to do tonight, but it won't be now. Also look for the link for bonsai tonight down in the about section, and check out Jonas's posts as well. He is a fantastic wealth of information on Japanese black pines and oaks and wisterias, and his garden is a very, very, very well-rounded garden. But I gotta say, he definitely has a knack for those black pines. I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching. Oh my God, I gotta get out of here now without tearing anything up. We can just dance around this guy. Oh, I'll do a rotate. We'll also do just a little rotate. Peach. Okay. In the can, Frida.